name is Hideout and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we're looking at Modern Horizons 2 and one of the brand new Planeswalker creature commanders. It's Grist, the Hunger Tide, a 3-mana, 3-loyalty Planeswalker. As long as Grist, the Hunger Tide, isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature in addition to its other types, which means you can play this as your commander, as outside of the game it's a creature, which is really sort of bizarre, but can lead to a lot of interesting little situations. +1 creates a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then mill a card. If an insect card was milled this way, put a loyalty counter on Grist and repeat this process. So potentially you could end up making an entire army of little insects. -2, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker. And finally, -5, each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. He's 3 loyalty. He does all sorts of things, does our Grist. He's a big dude. Well, he's actually quite a small little insect dude, but nonetheless, he's really cool. It's a really interesting sort of arena to play in. We've had Planeswalker commanders before, but this one is really rather unique, thanks to the fact that he's sometimes a creature. If you like these videos, please do subscribe. I'm going to be making plenty more like this. I'm going to make one for every single legendary creature and legendary planeswalker, potentially, that comes out and that has ever come out. It will take me a long time, but we'll get there in the end. So without further ado, let's have a look at the top 5. And in at number 5, we've got Bane of the Living. 4 mana for a 4/3 insect. This section is all about insects and the insects that you might want to play in your deck, because using our commander's top ability, we want as many insects to create more insects. Morph for double black and X. That means you can cast this card face down as a 2/2 creature for 3 generic mana. Turn it face up anytime for its morph cost. That doesn't use the stack, so it can't be responded to. It's pretty cool. And you can respond to things that, have split second and things like that. When the Bane of the Living is turned face up, all creatures get -X until end of turn. So a really cool little board wipe, and if you do it for X being 2, you wipe out all the small little dudes and you keep your Bane of the Living on the field. But I just love this card. It's a really nice sort of surprise board wipe that people won't expect to be coming. Then we've got Mazarek Kral Death Priest, 5 mana for a 2/2 with flying, and it's an insect shaman. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So one of our commander's abilities allows us to sacrifice a creature to destroy a creature or planeswalker, so we can activate it ourselves, and thanks to the +1 and a couple of other little insect-centered cards, we're going to be having a lot of tokens on the field. And we can just get some generic value from our opponents, sacrificing fetch lands, things like that, which is pretty decent. Then Molgraf Monstrosity is a 7 mana 8/8 with trample, insect. When it dies, exile it and return 2 creature cards at random from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, thanks to the fact that our commander is a creature in the graveyard, this could potentially reanimate our commander, which is sort of cool. And this commander, I think, will go to the graveyard quite a lot. We're not that fussed about her going to the graveyard, because we can always bring her back with a creature reanimation spell. Then Endless Cockroach is 3 mana for a 1/1. When it dies, return it to its owner's hand. So this can always keep coming back. It's great sacrifice fodder. We can keep sacrificing it. And it's an insect, so it triggers the mill ability on our commander. Nantuko Elder is a 3 mana 1/2, which taps for a generic and a green. So this is a nice little ramp card. You want your ramp to sort of synergize with the rest of the deck, and having an insect which ramps just really helps that out. Then Giant Adderphage, 7 mana for a 7/7 with trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of Giant Adderphage. So you have lots of insects flying about. Really, really nice. This can be a really cool reanimation target. And then if you start getting in for damage, you just get more and more of them. It just keeps spreading. Finally, Gleam Crawler is a 6 mana 6/6 with trample, insect horror. At the beginning of your end step, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. As I said, our commander has a sort of sacrifice synergy there, so this can keep bringing back everything, and potentially we can reuse those cards again. Which brings me on to number 4. So Our commander's ultimate, we want to fill the graveyard as much as possible. The -5, deals tons of damage, or potentially can. So why don't we fill our graveyard with cycling creatures? Yes, there we go. Street Wraith is a 5-mana 3/4 with Swamp Walk and cycling by paying 2 life. So this just fills our graveyard and gets us through the deck to the main cards we want to hit. Yes, it isn't an insect, but I think these cards are more than worthwhile including. Grozen Tusker, 7 mana for a 6/5 with cycling 3, which means you discard the card and draw a card. And when you cycle it, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. So a nice bit of fixing. It's the green divination, and it's uncounterable. That's why cycling is so good. Then Undead Gladiator, 3 mana for a 3/1. When it's in your graveyard, you can pay 2 and discard a card. Return it from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only during your upkeep. So if you want to reanimate sort of a massive threat, you can discard it to return Undead Gladiator, and then you can cycle it away for 2 mana. Just keeps the value going. Then Archfiend of Ifnir, 5 mana for a 5/4 with flying. Whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control, and cycling for 2 mana. So a nice little board wipe that goes along with all the rest of our cycling cards that we're going to be playing. Works really well, and it's just a big threat in the air as a 5/4. Then Shefet Monitor, nice bit of ramp. 6 mana for a 6/5 lizard. Cycling for 4 mana, so it is quite expensive, but when you cycle it, you may search your library for a basic land or desert card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Pretty good. Then Scion of Darkness, a massive dude here. 8 mana for a 6/6 with trample, cycling for 3 mana. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put a target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. The fact he has trample really helps with getting in the damage, and he just has cycling, so, I'm going to play him in every single deck possible. Finally, Hollow One, 5 mana for a 4/4. Hollow One costs 2 less to cast for each card you've cycled or discarded this turn. Cycling for 2 generic mana. Really, really good. Can be a nice free 4/4. Which brings me on to number 3. And I've put in my cycling sort of cards, so let's talk about something that isn't an insect at all. It's Hakon Stromgald Scourge. 3 mana for a 3/3 legendary zombie knight. So not an insect. So why is he in the insect sort of themed deck? Well, you'll see in a second. You may play Hakon Stromgald Scourge from your graveyard, but not from anywhere else. So you really want to be milling this guy, or potentially putting him in another way. As long as it is in play, you may play night cards from your graveyard. When it's put into the graveyard from play, you lose 2 life. So why? Well, because we're going to play a lot of shapeshifters, which are also knights and insects. So it triggers our commander's +1 ability, and we can recast them with Stromgald, or whatever the hell he was called. Realm Walker is a 3 mana 2/3 with Changelings, so it's every creature type, everywhere. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast creature spells that are chosen type from the top of your library. So being able to see the top card of your library is really important because, yes, you can cast it, but when we're activating our commander's ability, we want to make sure that we're going to be hitting an insect and keeping that chain going. So we can set up ahead of time, potentially change the cards around if you have a Sensei's Divining Top or something like that. Mass Vandal, 2 mana for a 1/3 with Changeling. It's everything. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. You're going to have quite a few of them knocking around, hopefully. If you do, exile target artifact and enchantment opponent controls. Excellent bit of removal and really gets in there. This is a sort of insect knight that you want to be playing. Then Chameleon Colossus, 4 mana for a 4/4 with Changeling, protection from black. So we can't target it with our own spells. Don't think that'll come up too much. And the sacrifice on our commander isn't targeted, so we can sacrifice this potentially. 4 mana, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is its power. So if we've got a lot of mana, we dump it all into this guy, and you've got a massive threat that can't be blocked by black creatures. So the mono black player is just going to collapse into a heap of nothingness. Which brings me on to number 2. And in number 2, we have Hell's Caretaker. 4 mana for a horror 1/1. Tap it and sacrifice a creature, so potentially one of the insect tokens our commander's created. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only during your upkeep. So we can't do any instant speed shenanigans. But we can keep bringing back our big threats. And more importantly, we can bring back our commander, because planeswalkers have a nasty tendency of being attacked by opponents. So being able to reanimate every single turn with Hell's Caretaker is absolutely fantastic. And we're playing a lot of big threats, so, well, we'll bring them back as well. Dread Return is another great card for this deck. 4 mana for a sorcery, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Flashback, sacrifice 3 creatures, which means you can cast it for the graveyard from the flashback cost. Having 3 insects, not that big of an issue, so easily we can bring back our commander. Then life/death is life. All lands you control become 1/1 creatures until end of turn. They're still lands. So thanks to the fact that we're playing a lot of tokens, this is going to be really quite powerful. We can fill out our board, potentially play a Creator Hoof afterwards, and just smash in for a load of damage. Then death is return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You lose life equals its converted mana cost. So, yes, it's not as good as reanimate, but the flexibility of having the life side and the death side is really, really good. This can bring back our commander for just 3 life, and it's just pure value. Then Doomed Necromancer is a 3 mana 2/2. Pay a black, tap, and sacrifice it. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, we can rebuy our commander, and it's on a body of its own, which is pretty solid. Oh, I've messed up. Look at these blank cards. Well, you could put these in your deck. I wouldn't really recommend it. So in at number 1, well, we've talked about a couple of different tribes here, you know, changelings and all that sort of thing. Why don't we make everything the same tribe, including all of our cycling cards? Ashes of the Fallen is a 2 mana artifact. As it comes into play, choose a creature type. So we want to choose insect for our commander's +1 ability. Each creature card in your graveyard has the chosen creature type in addition to its other types. So our commander's +1 ability, it mills a card and then checks if it is an insect. So because it's checking the card while it's in the public zone of the graveyard, this makes every creature into an insect. So even all of our cycling creatures and everything else will keep re-hitting our commander. So potentially you could set up massive chains where you just end up creating an enormous army just from one activation. And that's really, really cool. And this is a card that I've seen quite a few times, and it just really works in this deck. To go along with it, Masswood Nexus is a 4 mana artifact. Creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. Pay 3 and tap it, create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature total with Changeling. So it's also an insect. So this does exactly the same thing. It just makes absolutely everything into a thing. An insect, that's the one. It's not just a thing, it's an insect. Patriarch's Bidding is a 5 mana sorcery and has just been reprinted in, Modern Horizons 2. So it's brought the price down quite a lot, which is good. Each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature cards of the types chosen this way from his or her graveyard. So we're going to pick insect and bring back our entire army, including our commander if it's in the graveyard. Then Conspiracy, exactly the same as Masswood Nexus. 5 mana for an enchantment. As it comes to play, choose a creature type. Creature cards you own that aren't in play, creature spells you control, and creatures you control are the chosen type. So everything is an insect and everything triggers our commander. And those are my top 5 cards for this brand new Planeswalker insect, which is a sentence I never really thought I'd say in my life. But now that I am, I'm quite enjoying it. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, like, and comment. It makes me feel really good, and I read all of them. I like talking to you people. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.